Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name's Lama Kathy Wesley. The Lama got added later. I am coming to you from beautiful downtown Newark, Ohio, on behalf of the Columbus Karma Teksum Choling Tibetan Buddhist Meditation Center of Columbus, Ohio. And I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to see you today and to be part of this retreat program, Deepening Our Dharma Practice. Again, I want to give a shout out to all of the Columbus KTC volunteers who helped to make this happen, including our communications coordinator who is on the line this morning. Good morning, Justin. Thank you so much. And then also to Tanya, our Zoom host with the most. And I'd like to give a shout out to all the other KTC volunteers who are here today participating in the program. Thank you for what you do to help us. Today, I have a lamp on the shrine at our home monastery, Karmatriana Dharma Chakra, and it is in honor of all of the servants of the lineage, and that includes you. So thanks, folks, for your service to Columbus KTC. Through the efforts of everyone here, we've raised about $840 for the Columbus KTC. I don't know whether it's going to go to our rebuilding fund to help pay off our loan, or whether it's going to go into operations for our nail-biting first year in a building that's twice the size of the old one. Rinpoche, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, when our building burned down 6 years ago, said that we should rebuild our Dharma Center. And then he said, oh, and by the way, make it bigger. We've kind of forgot the part that happened after that, which is where it's going to cost more to do things. So I want to thank all of you for your generosity at our program today, because this will go, all of this over the cost of providing the Eventbrite service will go to KTC. So now the program topic is deepening our Dharma practice. And right before we started the program today, I asked folks if they would mind giving me some idea of things they would like to learn today. And if you have anything in particular you would like to make sure you take home from today's program, then you can type it into chat. Or I don't know if folks know how to use the raise hand function on Zoom, but if you do, Tanya and I will be scanning and looking for you.
Lama Kathy, can I interject for just a sec? We had a request in the chat privately to ask if it would be possible to spotlight the video so that the group's not on. And I think there's a way.
Sure.
Can I do that? Okay, just so that it's not on for the recording.
No, hey, I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. And then everyone, if you want to go back to the way you were seeing it in gallery view privately for your own settings, just go up to the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom screen, and there's a little thing. It might not appear until you hover over it. It says view, and you can change it back to gallery then, and then you can see everybody in Brady Bunch mode again.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, thanks, Tanya. I appreciate it. Yeah, yeah, thank you. All right, so folks, tell us what you'd like to make sure you learn today. I'm looking at chat and I'm not seeing anything, so feel free to unmute your microphone and give us an idea of something you'd like to make sure you hear today.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
I guess a continual theme for me in my Dharma practice is how it affects my daily life, and which is good. I guess maybe the way to summarize this is taking your practice with you off the cushion. What does that look like? Or something I struggle with is I feel like I'll make a lot of progress with my practice at home with myself, and then I'll go out in the world or go to work, and I'm challenged by the real world and how it operates. And so just that, I don't know, holding on to your practice throughout the day, or in a kind of chaotic world, or maybe a world that isn't doing Dharma practice, like
You don't feel supported, in other words.
yeah, like what do you do? So just that kind of general theme.
Okay, yeah, we can cover that today. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that, because I think what you're sharing, excuse me, I think what you're sharing is what we all go through, because, and I think part of the reason is that the world we are living in can be a very tough world, and it can be a very heartless world. And yet what we're developing, or let's put it this way, our goal in Dharma practice is to develop our heart. And then what happens when the world doesn't match that? And then how do we navigate that so that we can bring it all back together? So yeah. Got you covered. Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else have anything in particular? Here's someone who's shared in, oh good, we've had some shared in chat. Here we go. Another person talking about off the cushion, and how when you want to practice, well, you have to take action to keep life going. Boy, that's the truth. Another person says, I feel my response to the tension and fear around me is skillful in the moment, but find myself exhausted after the fact. I would like to be less exhausted. I understand the feelings. So let's see what we can find together. Another person is asking or is saying, I would hope that today's session will help me deepen my commitment to practice this year. That's right. And then another person says how to challenge myself to improve in my Dharma practice while making sure I'm taking care of myself. Yeah. Okay, that sounds right. Curious to know how and when to challenge oneself to more effort. That's a really good point. How, when to enact the challenge round in your practice. I get that. Practice can become routine, which is good, but it seems some more wisdom is needed to know when to apply more effort, especially without teacher nearby. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Other folks have things they'd like to talk about or to mention. Make sure we get in today. We'll take another couple of minutes in case you want to unmute and ask the question.
Hey, Lama Kathy, this is Kashmira.
Hey there.
Hi there. Yeah, so to Justin's point, especially if you could speak to the role of Sangha in connecting our daily practice to daily life in the absence of seeing people in person on a regular basis.
Boy, I can really hear that. A lot of us can relate. We can really relate to what you're saying. Okay, because whether the reason that we're not seeing Sangha is because of the external circumstances, such as we're facing right now with the continuance of the pandemic, whether it's for that reason or the fact that our Sangha may be far away, because I have people who have become part of the Columbus KTC Sangha who are from distant cities, and they don't have Dharma centers in their city or not nearby. So I think this is a real challenge for many people. So thanks. And then someone else in chat is asking about how to bring joy into the practice. And I think that's another great topic. So we can talk about that too. Okay, time for one more. There's time for one more bit of input.
Hi, Lama Kathy, it's Kyla.
Hey,
hello. I find I struggle speaking to others about these concepts because, and I'm new to this, but I've really studied hard in the last 6 or 7 months. And if there's some different language that can be used to attract others to meditation and perhaps Buddhism without using the terminology that is just like, what? I don't get this.
Yeah.
So like that would be very helpful. And I know, our example for others, for them to ask us would be the primary thing, but sometimes it's, you want to help others and give them information. And I didn't know anything about Buddhism my whole life. It's like, so anyway, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Yes, so I really appreciate it, and thanks very much. Also, there's another person who have said perhaps a small list of Dharma practice priorities. Oh yeah, good point.
That's a nice one.
Priorities. Yes. Oh, I see, sitting meditation and so on. And then another person is asking for people who are working to establish a meditation practice while working with mental conditions such as depression and anxiety. And then talking about how to deal with the heavier topics without falling into nihilism, which is like despair. Yes, okay. And any Buddhist texts that address challenges with mental illness. Okay, yeah, okay, we can definitely talk about this. Okay, and what I'll do is after the break, I'm going to be sharing some book recommendations, because everyone asks what are the what sorts of books are good for us to read, and I'll be sharing some book recommendations, and some of those recommendations do touch on the question of mental health and how meditation can help with that. So I'm going to begin now formally the first part of the class. As I mentioned earlier, what we're going to be doing. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you for paying attention. We do have one hand raised. Okay, yeah, go for it.
I just wondered if you could also mention how to find the view of Dharma and try and renew it during the day, like trying to find a way to see and maintain that view or renew it.
Okay, got it. Excellent. Yeah, this is good because this is related to a theme that you're going to see throughout the program today. And it's been, this question is definitely on the minds of several people here. They've talked about it, and I think this is establishing this thread is going to really be helpful. So thank you for the way you stated it, because the way you stated it kind of put a key in a lock for me about how to introduce this topic throughout the program. So thank you for asking. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is I'd like to explain a little bit about what we're going to be doing. For the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking about the program itself and what we're going to be doing. And then we're going to do a short meditation. After that, there may be some more presentation. And then after that, we'll have a break somewhere between 11 and 11:10. And then the program will break for lunch at noon. And then we'll reconvene at 1 o'clock. I know that didn't give you much time for lunch, but as these days, most of us are still at home, it might be easier for you to get your lunch today. Then we'll begin again at 1 and go until 3 with the same kind of pattern of presentation, questions, presentation, questions, a little meditation, and so on. I do want to ask one favor, and that is that if you are not speaking, please leave your microphone on mute, because otherwise sounds from your home will be on the recording. And we've had kitty cats on the recording. We've had washing machines on the recording. We've had all kinds of things on the recording. So anyhow, I just wanted to thank you for that, and also to put a shout out for Tanya for keeping me on task here this morning with the Zoom. So we'll begin. I know, even though I called this a Dharma retreat, I didn't actually plan on everyone reciting prayers together, but I'd like to begin by saying a few prayers of my own. And while I'm doing this, you have a couple of choices. You can join in if this is a prayer you're familiar with, but if it's a prayer you are unfamiliar with, you can join in your heart and in your mind, thinking that you dedicate this session of time today to the accomplishment of goodness for the sake of all beings. So I'll recite the English language version of the Refuge Prayer. In the Buddha, his teaching and the order most excellent, we take refuge until enlightenment is reached. Through the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may we attain Buddhahood for the sake of all that lives. In the Buddha, his teaching and the order most excellent, we take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may we attain Buddhahood for the sake of all that lives. In the Buddha, his teaching and the order most excellent, we take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may we attain Buddhahood for the sake of all that lives. And now I'll recite a short prayer of my own, praying to the Guru to be with us today. Oh, Palden Sawe Lama Rinpoche, Dagi Chiwo Pede Den Shola, Kadrin Chembo Gone Sonte. Kusum tugging a drip sal du sol. Okay, thank you. I'm just so pleased to be here with you this morning, and I'm so pleased that you've taken some time out of your busy lives and day to be together with us to talk about meditation practice and the teachings of the Buddha. I've been practicing meditation for about 40 years, but the last 25 of those I've been asked by my teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, to teach meditation and Buddhist teachings as my secret identity, Lama Kathy. I don't really have that much quality myself because my meditation is still sort of up and down, but as he asked me to try to help in whatever way I can, that's why I'm going to offer this program today. This part of the reason I want to do this is because often when people start meditating, they experience a little bit of encouragement in their lives. They feel that they understand things about their mind that they didn't understand before. They begin to see their patterns. They begin to see even the Buddhist idea of karma, how what we do, think, and say influences how we experience the world. They begin to see little glimmers of what the Buddha said in his teaching that is quoted in the Dhammapada. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts, and with our thoughts, we make the world. And so because we are what we think, and all that we are arises with our thoughts, and because with our thoughts we make our world, we make our own experience of the world with how our mind is, then it stands to reason that if we want to work with and engage with the world we are in, we need to engage with our mind, which is the experiencer of all of these things. And so I'd like to suggest that of the Four Noble Truths that the Buddha taught, suffering is part of life, suffering has a cause, suffering has a solution, and there's a path that leads to the end of suffering. That in the path, in terms of the path of Dharma, there are three things that the Buddha said we should emphasize. He said, do no harm. That's the first thing he said. He said, practice virtue. And he said, tame your mind. Do no harm, practice virtue, tame your mind. And then the fourth statement was, this is the teaching of the Buddha, meaning don't look elsewhere. It's all here. So, and so for us, taming the mind is going to be important, because otherwise, without taming the mind, how are we going to know how to take care of ourselves, which is doing no harm and practicing virtue? How are we going to know how to do no harm? How are we going to know how to practice virtue unless we have a tamed mind? And so in order to understand how to take care of ourselves, how to benefit others, how to hold ourselves back from doing doing negative things and harming others and harming ourselves. In other words, in order to do all of these things, we need to tame the mind. And so the taming of the mind is most important. So that's why in my program today, I'm going to start with the practice of meditation, because when we want to deepen our Dharma practice, the first place we have to begin is with the mind. And being able to tame and understand the mind is going to be very important, because during the beginning of the program today, when I was asking folks for their input about what we could talk about today, several people mentioned how to bring joy into their practice, how to challenge themselves, how to hold on to their practice throughout the day, and how to renew one's view and practice throughout the day. And really what it comes down to, based on my own experience of Dharma, is that it really all comes down to our mind and what thread we hold on to during the day. And that thread is tied to mindfulness. Mindfulness, whether it's the practice of quiet sitting meditation, mindfulness, whether it's quiet sitting, whether it's the recitation of mantra, whether it's the practice of compassion meditation, sending out goodness to the world and removing suffering from the world. These three basic practices of shamatha, which is calm, abiding, quiet sitting meditation, tonglen, which is compassion meditation, and mantra practice. These three practices are central to the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And these three practices can help us deepen our Dharma practice. But in order to do them, we have to have a mind that is ready to be tamed. We have to have a mind that is ready to change its viewpoint. We have to have a mind that's ready to bring itself home into itself. And we have to have a mind that is ready to take in new information and to use that new information to inform the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. And so I'm going to start today with a shamatha. I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about the basics of shamatha, and we will do a short session of shamatha meditation, only about 5 minutes. Then we'll have a discussion of our practice of shamatha. And then after that, we'll talk a little bit more about this idea of having a thread of mindfulness that we've established during the day. So in order to do this practice of meditation, we have to start with our seat, where we're sitting in meditation. Now, some of you have told me, I remember from previous conversations with some of you are not comfortable sitting up. So you might have to lie down on the floor if that is your comfortable position, or sit in a chair if that's your comfortable position. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, in his book Dharma Paths, which will come up in a few minutes, this is the first edition of Dharma Paths. The new edition has a much prettier cover. Actually, I would say that simple is good. So it's got, I'll call it a more elaborate cover. It's got a lot of painting in the background. But in his book Dharma Paths, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche talks about building your meditation posture from the bottom up and touching on specific parts of the body that help the mind to calm down. So when he builds the meditation posture in the chapter of his book called Taming the Mind, he starts with your legs. Whether you're sitting on a chair or whether you're sitting on the floor, your legs will need to be comfortable. And one of the things you can do if you're sitting in a chair, I'm going to draw my little 90-degree angle here. Your bottom will be on in the chair, and then your feet will be on the floor. And it's nice to have that nice 90-degree angle where your feet are flat on the floor and they are about hip width apart. And so sometimes this means in order to do this, you have to scoot a little bit more toward the edge of your seat, but you'll see what is comfortable for you, because different chairs place your body differently. So if you're sitting in a chair, you sit so that your feet are flat on the floor, about hip width apart. Now, if you're sitting on the floor, you can sit in any one of the positions that are given in the classic meditation instruction books, which would be to sit. The athletes can sit in the full lotus posture, which is what they call in yoga, with the left foot on the right thigh and the right foot on the left thigh, looking and feeling a little pretzel-like. But if this is uncomfortable for you, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche recommends that you not try to do this posture in meditation until you really are comfortable for sitting in it for long periods of time. In fact, he was very smart about telling us as beginning Dharma students. He said, well, if it's uncomfortable for you, you're not going to be able to pay attention to anything except the pain. So he said, how about this? How about you rehearse the posture while you're watching television so you're distracted? Anyhow, so, but the idea is that this is said to be a very classic posture that will help to balance and the energies in the body so that meditation goes smoothly. But if that one's not comfortable, you can sit in any one of 3 other postures. There's a half lotus posture with one leg on top, the other underneath. It could be either one. There's also something called the easy pose, where your legs are put one in front of the other. And then finally, there's the posture that somebody told me is called Taylor, Tailor, Taylor style, where the ankles are crossed and the legs are crossed like this. Now, what I have found is that sometimes when people are sitting this way, what happens is it puts a little extra pressure on their hips. So what some folks will do is put bean bags or other blocks like yoga blocks underneath their knees so that the knees are supported. The key is I'm going to have my visual aid here. Let's say this is your hip and let's say this is your knee. The idea is to get the knees either on the same level as the hips or slightly below. That's the key, is the hips being either on the same level or slightly below. And this is easy for chair sitters, absolutely easy for chair sitters. So we don't need to worry about that. But for folks sitting on the floor, it's easy to do that. Now, once you've established where your legs are going to go, then the next part of the posture is the seat. So Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, when he was teaching about this, he said the traditional rule of thumb for Tibetan meditation cushions is that they should be at least 4 finger widths high. That's your fingers, not mine. And so it fits your body. But I have found that when you don't grow up learning to sit on the floor, that you might need more. And so you can double it, 8 finger widths or even more. But the idea then is to have a cushion underneath your bottom so that we can have that posture where the hip is here and the knee is below. So you can sit on any kind of cushion. I've got a crushed foam cushion underneath me, but some people like the more firm zafu, the Japanese style cushion that is filled with kepak. Other folks like beanbags. Whatever type of cushion you like the best is what's going to give you that stability while you're sitting. Now, after you've taken your seat, you've arranged your legs, then you can do a little exercise in which you tighten the muscles in the lower part of your body, and then you relax them. And what this does is it grounds you on the seat. So now we've talked about the legs and the back side. Now we'll talk about the back itself. You know, our back is not really straight. When people say have a straight back, that you know that they don't really mean that you should have your vertebrae lined up like this, because your back naturally has curves in it. So when you sit in meditation, whether you're sitting in a chair or sitting on the floor, you can give yourself a good posture where the back has its nice natural curves, but the shoulders are straight. A martial arts teacher told me one way to find your sweet spot for your back is to round your shoulders so that you know your posture is just not right. And then to arch your back also so that it's a little too much. And then to gradually move your spine back so that you get into a place where your back is comfortable. Again, you round your shoulders so that we know that's too much, and you arch it so that you know that's too much, but then you gradually take some degrees off of that arch until you have your comfort zone. So that's how to find the sweet spot, according to my friend, the martial artist. So now we have talked about the legs and the seat and the back. Now the shoulders, hands, and arms. There are two traditional postures in the Buddhist instruction manuals, meditation instruction manuals. One is a tradition of cupping the hands in the lap, which is something I can't properly show on Zoom, but I'm going to do it high up here so that you can see. Your left hand's on the bottom, your right hand's on the top, and your fingers can touch, your thumbs can touch. The Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said that unless you're able to sit in the lotus posture, this is a little bit difficult to do, because he said, where are you going to put your hands? Where are you going to rest them? He said, in the lotus posture, you can rest them right where your legs cross. But if you don't have that, he says it might be easier to use the position that was championed by the Kagyu forefather, Marpa the translator. Marpa the translator, when he taught meditation with your hands palm downward on the tops of your legs. Palm downward, tops of the legs. And you can see that that creates a little bit of a triangle, whether you're sitting on a chair or sitting on the floor. And so, in other words, he said, Khenpo Rinpoche said, if you can hold this posture without tension, it's fine to try it. But if you can't hold this posture without tension, then it's better to use the method that Marpa championed. So that takes care of the shoulders, hands, and arms, the legs, the back, and the seat. Now, the chin. In order to have your neck be comfortable, which is really hard these days because we all have tech neck from sitting at our computers, you can begin by tucking your chin in slightly, makes a little double chin, and then that straightens the neck vertebrae. You can then think about your gaze. There are several ways to place the gaze. Because we're starting out to learn shamatha, which means calm abiding, that quiet meditation, we're going to place our gaze downward. You can gaze generally ahead, a few feet ahead and downward, but you're not focusing on a place in the carpet or the floor. You're actually allowing your gaze to be diffuse, not specifically focusing on a point, just allowing your gaze to be diffuse. Next, you can touch your tongue to the upper palate behind the front teeth. This allows the muscles of the jaw to relax because we hold a lot of tension there. And so this is the posture for meditation. Legs, seat, back, shoulders, hands, and arms, chin, gaze, tip of the tongue. Khenpo Rinpoche said that when you get into this posture, it's good to just let your body settle into it for a moment or two. Just feel the posture. Be present with the posture. Next, the beginning, the mental preparation. The physical preparation is done. So now we're going to do the mental preparation. Once we've sat for a moment in the posture, without doing anything, you just let your body settle. Then you make a mental preparation of saying to yourself, I'm going to practice this meditation for the benefit of both myself and all beings. That's your mental preparation so that your intention is stated to yourself. Then when Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche first started teaching meditation at our center, he said you can also begin with one deep breath, breathing through the nose if possible, mouth if you're congested, breathing deeply. Imagine that the breath falls below the navel, and then breathe out. And after this centering breath, You allow your breath to come and go naturally, placing your attention on the breath as it comes in and goes out. There are a couple ways to do this. You can follow the breath as it goes in, follow the breath as it goes out. Or you can just be aware of the movement of the breath at the nostrils. The next phase of instruction is to know what to do with perceptions, feelings, and thoughts. Sometimes when we're sitting, thoughts will arise. And when they arise, we can work with them. Let's say we're sitting and we're watching our breath, and a thought arises, and it does not capture our attention. It just disappears. And we just let it go. But let's say a thought appears and it captures our attention. What we can do when that happens is we can practice something that one Lama called touch and let go. Once you recognize that you've been captivated by the thought, you can recognize that you've been captivated by it. You can actually label it thinking, let it go, consciously withdraw your attention from that thought, and then place your attention again on the breath, thinking, now I have a fresh start. Notice, let go, and return. Touch it with your attention. Label it if that helps, and then let it go, and then return to the breath for a fresh start. So we'll do this for just a few minutes and see how it goes. Okay, that's a short meditation, kind of a beginning of the day, quick meditation. Now I'd like to take a few moments and ask how that was, and to find out what folks would like to have clarified about the description of the posture or the description of the attention exercise. And if you have things that are typically troublesome to you in meditation, the meditation doctor is in. Let me know what you're curious about, and we'll spend a few minutes talking about our practice and how we can improve our meditation. Anyone? I'll also be watching the chat. Okay. So not hearing any questions.
Hello, Lama Kathy.
Yes. I can hear
I have
you.
a curiosity question. One of the instructions I've heard for years is to, in the breathing, to focus the breathing on the nostrils. But I've certainly observed that I tend to, focus on, the breath going further down into my belly, and then breathing in and out. Do you mind talking a bit about how it came to be to focus on the breath at the nostrils?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate that. I appreciate the question. And in fact, I'm going to try something that I haven't done before, which is I'm going to try the whiteboard. This will either work or not. When we're talking about breath awareness, which is what this type of practice is, there are several ways that it can be practiced. One is being attentive to the in-breath in and out-breath. And that would include what you were saying, where you're aware of it filling your the lower part of your body, and then so forth and so on. You can be attentive to the in and out breath in various ways, all the way in, all the way out, and so on. Some people even use a visualization because it helps them stay on the topic. But then the Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said that when we're working with meditation students, that we can start by encouraging them to be attentive to both the in and the out breath. But then he said, after a while, he said, you can actually progress and be attentive to the out breath only, and not worry about the in breath at all. And you may say, well, how do I know when it's time? What my sense of it is that you may still start with following the breath all the way in, following the breath all the way out, and so forth at the beginning of your session. But then gradually you will change your objects of attention. So you can be attentive to the in and out breath. You can be attentive to the out breath only. And you can also be attentive to the sensation at the nostrils. And I forgot to mention one more thing, which is, folks, do you remember being taught to count? Okay, for those of you who learned way back when, like me, first meditation instruction I got was to be attentive to the breath all the way in, attentive to the breath all the way out, and to count. In breath, out breath, mentally count 1, in breath, out breath, mentally count 2, and so on. And what really is happening here, these things are props. They are propping up our attention. So we're propping up our attention with counting. In breath, out breath. And out breath equals 1. And so forth. You can count up to an easy number like 7, tough number like 21, which is a traditional number. And please, I don't know why. I can't answer that question. I don't know why 21. It just, that's what they say. It's in the texts. Anyhow, and then you, or Kemper Carther Rinpoche said, you can just keep going. If you want to count all the way to 100 above, that's up to you. But what's happening is that these things prop up our attention. They allow us to notice what's going on by following the breath all the way in, following the breath all the way out, and counting. We will notice distraction or being captivated by thoughts or perceptions. We'll notice it a lot more easily if we have more props. But what Kemper Rinpoche said would happen naturally over a person's meditation career, if you will, is that they will start out with all of the props in place. And then after all of those props are in place, then gradually over time, it could be days, weeks, months, years, that the props will be relinquished. So the first prop to go is usually counting. But to tell you the truth, I've been meditating for 40 years and I still do the first 21 with the counting just to kind of get it all established. You can drop that. Then the second one that you will drop is the attentiveness to the in-breath, and then you'll be attentive to the out-breath only. And then finally, you will be attentive only to the sensation at the nostrils. And what, so in answer to your question, I think that all of us who've been meditating for a while, we kind of know where we're at in a given day. And we might be able to, we might need all of the props. And if we do, fantastic, because being able to be attentive to the technique and return to the technique are really the most important things. Because a person might think that the focus, and I use the word focus, that's wrong. I tried it, by the way, I consciously never use the word concentrate, and I consciously never use the word focus when I teach meditation, for the fact that words are powerful. And if you tell someone to focus, they'll do this. Or if you tell someone to concentrate, they'll really put a lot of effort into it, which Kemper Rinpoche says gives them more thoughts. The more you try to press your mind, and the harder you press on your mind, it's like pressing on a piece of paper with a pencil. You might break the point of the pencil if you press too hard. So what you see going on, and I think this was Therona asking this question, if I recognize your voice, what I see going on in your question is it's talking about subtler and subtler objects of attention. Breath in, breath out, counting. That's a lot of props. That is a lot of structure. That's, I guess you would call that a grosser set of objects of attention. And then being attentive only to the in and out breath without counting would be next. That would be even more subtle still, attentive to the out breath only. Even more subtle still, attentive to the sensation of the nostrils. And then finally, Rinpoche said, if you want to relinquish even the even attention to the breath, you can raise the gaze as the raise the gaze as the last change in how you prop up your attention. And if you raise the gaze just a little bit, looking straight out, and then just allow your gaze to be gentle, that is the that's the last iteration. I myself have difficulty with that unless I take off my glasses, because I tend to be distracted by visual objects, and I have to return to the breath as my anchor. So I'm sorry I went on a tour of the world based on your question about which direction to turn at the intersection. But does this help at all? Okay.
Thank you.
not-
Thank you.
that do it? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, and somebody is mentioning sometimes this goes better for me than others. When it does not go particularly well, I'm aware that the constant need to bring myself back. How do I not take this as a failure and get frustrated? Yeah, I think the most important thing is to use gentleness and affection for yourself, to cultivate a sense of gentleness and affection for yourself as you practice. Because my friend Julie, the brain scientist, says that where the training of your mind happens is in what she calls the oops moment. When you notice you've been distracted. And so if we think that the function of meditation is to quote unquote clear the mind so there are no thoughts in the mind, this is not the point of meditation. Meditation is not about trying to clear your thoughts or make thoughts not happen or make perceptions not happen. It's to be present with them, but not be captivated and taken away by them. So since that is the true function of meditation, to notice and discard distraction, noticing and discarding distraction is the main point of quiet sitting meditation. That's the main point. We are training ourselves to notice and discard distraction. Then that means the oops moment where you notice the distraction, I'm going to call it, is the power moment in your meditation. The oops moment, noticing the distraction, is the power moment in meditation. It's where you actually get stronger. And if you can, the way Dr. Julie put it was, when you're making new neural pathways, which is what you're doing when you're trying to train your attention through meditation, then these oops moments are really, actually, it's not like you want to have a bunch of them, but you want to learn how to handle them in a way that is constructive. So you're absolutely right. It's important not to see it as a failure, but part of the way you can do that is in two ways. You can do it by generating gentleness and affection for yourself, saying, oh, that's okay, no problem, we got this. And then bring your attention back to the breath and to think, we got this. And the other thing is fresh start. In other words, instead of thinking of your meditation as one long period of complete peace or complete lack of thought. I mean, number one, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said you can't like stop your thoughts. And if you try, it'll get worse. He said it's just noticing them and learning how to work with them, learning how to drop them and how to return your attention. He said, then you're the boss. You're the boss of your thoughts, and slowly you're working on making that happen. And so hopefully this will be, adding these things will help, because it's when we think that meditation is about some kind of perfect performance, like, oh, I'm going to perfectly perform meditation, that we forget. When we think like that, we forget that it's all about making friends with the processes of our mind, the process of perception, the process of thinking, the process of letting go, all of these processes, getting to know them and becoming so familiar with them that you kind of like go, oh, you're so cute. You really want to be attentive to that thing that's going on outside your window. You're so adorable. And then just to give ourselves the permission to have our oops moment, where we recognize and then let go of the distraction and then return our attention, because noticing, letting go, and returning is how we're going to get stronger as meditators. So I hope that helps. Awesome. For some reason, a lot of folks who learn meditation from books or from video sources, sometimes the instructors forget this part. this part of saying the function of meditation is not to clear the mind of thoughts so you don't have any. It's learning how to work with them with gentleness and affection, and noticing and returning, and making that the successful noticing and returning. No matter how long it takes to notice, you could be 5 minutes into a distraction and still successfully accomplish the noticing, letting go, and returning. Even if you've been gone for 5 minutes thinking about what's happening tomorrow, the moment you notice and are able to label it, let it go, and then return your attention to the breath, you've made a success. That's success. So I just want to tell you all, you're doing good. Other questions that people might have? Okay, I'm going to turn off the whiteboard. Thank you for letting me use the whiteboard. I'm still learning how to use it. Yeah, I could watch the instructional video, but did I? Anyhow, okay. So it's just going to be what it is. All right. Okay, great. Yeah, I have to, when do you, someone's asking, when do you recommend the use of a mala? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's see. Yeah. I had a Dharma friend who lived on the West Coast, and she really had a struggle with breath awareness. It was just really hard for her. The counting, she got distracted. She had all kinds of problems with that and so forth. But when I said, hold a mala, or a set of beads in your hand, starting at the head bead and going away from, have you draw the beads toward you like that. In breath, out breath, move a bead. In breath, out breath, move a bead. In breath, out breath, move a bead. That it worked. What she did was that she counted off, like you see these color beads occur in the traditional Tibetan mala. Sometimes you'll see color beads at the quarter mala point, at the half mala point. So what she did was that she started at the quarter mala point and went back to the center again, to the center bead, the head bead or the guru bead. So in breath, out breath, move a bead, in breath, out breath, move a bead. And then this was about maybe 2-3 minutes of meditation. Then she took a break, and then she did it again. And so her 10-minute meditation was broken into several of these little mini sessions. And having the kinesthetic feeling of moving the mala, that really helped her to connect with her breath in a concrete way that helped her to stay on track. Let's see. Here's a topic I'd like to learn about. Lojong has become my main practice. I've studied Great Path and follow your instructions, but like to know more, get deeper, and like the other participant, would like to know about Buddhism and yes, mental illness and recovery. Yes. Okay, good. Thank you for putting that in the hopper. That's where we're going next after we finish this part. I have time for 1 or 2 more questions, either from chat or microphone. On the topic of meditation. If you want to ask a question, you can use the unmute microphone function and unmute your microphone.
When you're talking about this, is there any way to deal with the energy of emotions that can be entering into your meditation?
Oh, sure. Thank you very much for asking about that, because this does happen from time to time. There are people who have reported to me that while they're meditating, perhaps, and this may not be your question, but what people have said to me in the past is that sometimes when they're meditating, a memory of something painful in the past might arise. And what I tell people to do in that moment, because I myself did not ask Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche this question, so I don't have the benefit of his answer. But here's kind of where I would go. I would, in the moment, make an aspiration that when you feel the emotion and it begins to distract you, that then you change your object of attention to a thought. You actually create a thought in that moment. And the thought is, may I and all beings have freedom. And I think that kind of, freedom and healing, right? And in that way, you can just spend a moment or two feeling the feeling, not trying to chase it away, just feeling it for a moment and saying, making an aspiration out of it. May I and all beings have like a freedom, and may we have healing. And I think that even though we're sort of quote unquote interrupting our meditation to do that, I think it's okay, because the emotional reaction we have to that painful memory, perhaps, or whatever's going on, the sadness, maybe we're grieving the loss of someone or something. And then suddenly we get, we get a little like upset about it, or maybe we feel anxious about something, or maybe worry is beginning. I'm thinking that the reason I'm coming up with this is that Khenpo Rinpoche said once, when somebody asked him, Rinpoche, I'm a creative person and I write for a living. And like, I have all these ideas that occur to me for things I could write while I'm meditating. And he said, well, that's natural because your mind is actually on neutral. We're allowing our mind to go into neutral. If you want to use the car gear analogy, we're allowing our mind to go into neutral, and then ideas sometimes will bubble up when there's not anything else going on. But he said, it is not worth stopping your meditation to write something down. And then he said, that will just encourage you to think more. It'll just encourage you to think more. He said, so what you could do as a half measure is just to say, may I remember, again, you make an aspiration. May I remember this thought, this idea when the meditation finishes, and then go back to the technique, because then you're reasserting your role here, which is to observe and to train your attention. So if an emotion arises and it kind of catches you and you get distracted and maybe put off a little bit by it, just quiet yourself with an aspiration saying, I'm feeling this. May I and all beings be free. May we be free and may we heal. And then if that helps, great. You can go back to watching the breath. And if it doesn't help, you can take a break from your meditation and come back after things have quieted down. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. And I want to apologize. I just realized I blew past our 11 o'clock break. So even though it's a little bit funny, I'd like to take like a 5-minute break right now. On my clock, it's about 13 minutes past the hour. And so I'd like to rejoin us at 18 minutes past the hour. I'm going to be turning off I'm going to turn off the recording. So thanks, everyone. I wanted to let you know that there is some method in the madness as to why I've shared meditation as the first part of our Deepening the Dharma retreat today. And that's because as we train our minds, as we train our attention, what to be attentive to and what to let go of, as we do this over and over again, day after day, establishing a thread, we establish the thread of something called mindfulness. And mindfulness is what is going to help us with everything in our life. Mindfulness consists of it creates, I'm going to hop back to the whiteboard for a second and talk to you about this. By the way, I will take a screenshot of this white part of the whiteboard, and I will move it over and make it an object that you can look at later on. Okay. So now we'll erase this part of the whiteboard. I'm going to talk a little bit about what mindfulness is. There are two skills we get from meditation. We get two skills for meditation practice, and they are mindfulness and alertness. Mindfulness is basically establishing a connection, a thread, a conscious thread, basically. It's being aware of what you're doing. So basically, when Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche explained what mindfulness was, he said it was a continuous instilling of the motivation to follow the technique. That's a lot of words. Continuous instilling of the motivation to follow the technique. But that's really hard to say over and over again. So I'll just use shorter words. Establishing a conscious thread to pursue the technique. You know, it's like you're placing a thread in something so that you can find your way back to it. And so when we establish the idea that we're going to be mindful of the breath, that is a mindfulness. We're establishing that I will be mindful of my breath. So that's one of the skills that we establish through meditation practice, is burying that thread that we're going to keep with us. Because this is going to help with the folks who said they wanted daily life applications. And also they want to know how they remain aware of their practice and aware of the Dharma through the day. This is where that happens. If you want to know how to renew your motivation for practice during the day, how to get hold of your meditation practice during the day when there's tumult going on, how to extend your practice, how to challenge yourself. I mean, oddly enough, a lot of the things that people brought up today as the things they really want to talk about, it really you get a really solid training in all of that by understanding what mindfulness is and how to use it. So we start with this idea of mindfulness, establishing this conscious thread to pursue the technique. In other words, you're the one who's in charge of your meditation, and you're the one who, when you notice you're distracted, you can go, you can label it thinking, let it go, and return to the technique. In other words, you become the boss. But there's another thing that you learn, and alertness, which is alertness. Some people call it awareness, but that's kind of a tricky thing, because awareness is used with there's a couple of ways the word awareness gets used in English language explanation of the Buddhist teaching. So we have to be a little cautious on this. So I'm going to distinguish this type of awareness by calling it alertness. Alertness. We are going to be aware or alert to changes and distractions. So in other words, you're going to be, alertness is what alerts you to the fact that you're not following the technique anymore. It's what helps you notice when you have wandered. When these are talked about in Buddhist teachings, I don't know if any of you have seen the Tibetan version of the Zen ox herding pictures, where the meditator is trying to train their mind like a person is trying to train an ox. Well, in Tibetan Buddhism, it's a person taming an elephant. So the elephant is your mind, and if we can tame the elephant, then eventually we can train it. Oh yeah, thanks very much. I really appreciate somebody just alerted me to my typo. You're the best. You guys are totally the best. I worked as a newspaper reporter for 15 years, so I love it when people notice misspelling. You guys are the bomb. Okay, anyhow, so alertness is when you are aware or alert to changes and distractions, and both of these allow you to notice distraction and let them go. Notice, let go. Notice, let go. And the more you can do this, the better you get at it. And so in the Tibetan elephant herding drawings, mindfulness is a rope. It's depicted as a rope, and alertness is the elephant hook. So with the tether or rope of awareness, of mindfulness, and the hook of alertness, we can then move the elephant and tame them. Any questions about this part? Okay. All right. So, so then if you want to know what this does, then I'll go ahead and, what I should do first is there are probably other ways of doing this, saving this, but again, I didn't watch the video. So I'm just going to do it the hard way for now, and then we'll bring that stuff back for you later. So this is how mindfulness and alertness are what are going to allow you to think of the Dharma throughout the day. Because when we start thinking in meditation, if we can relinquish that moment of thought, what we've done is we've relinquished the idea that we can somehow control everything. When we're letting go of thought, because, as one of the translators who translated for the Tibetan teachers said to me once, our problem is that we think that thinking is important. Our problem is that we think that thinking is important. And so we think, well, our thinking has gotten us out of all the jams we've ever been into. It's helped us solve most of our problems. And so why would I want to stop thinking? Why would I want to let go of thinking and just relax into the basic experience of mind? Well, one is that we think that thinking is important. And another is that it could be that we have a fear of the unknown. That we fear what will happen when we relinquish thought. We fear things like, will I become abnormal? Will I cease to fit into my world? Will my family still know me? Will they still love me? I've had people tell me every single one of these things, that they have had some fear about what might happen if they let go of thought. But this is part of the reason that we sit for short periods in a controlled environment, so that we can know that we've got this. Remember we got you, we've got you. We're going to take care of you. You're going to be fine. And reassuring ourselves is very important. But the person who asked, how do we renew our Dharma during the day? How do we hold on to our practice through the day? It is through the practice of mindfulness, which actually can be, it can be cultivated through all three of the types of practice that I spoke of in the first section here. We can cultivate mindfulness through quiet sitting meditation. We can cultivate mindfulness through Tonglen or compassion meditation. And we can cultivate mindfulness through the practice of mantra. Because whatever technique we are being attentive to, shamatha, Tonglen, or mantra, whatever one of these techniques we're doing, we are able to place our attention on it and leave our attention on it. And I think that is one of the key parts of practicing mindfulness through the day, is to notice what we're thinking and work with what we're thinking, and noticing what we're thinking and making a commitment to work with it. And another thing that we can do to help us practice mindfulness throughout the day, besides noticing and making a commitment to work with what we're thinking, is implanting an intention. You can implant an intention by saying such things as, May all beings be happy. You can implant an intention by saying things like, may I benefit all beings who see me. And may I benefit all beings that I see and encounter. Someone asked me one time, how is it that you can speak in front of people? Because speaking in front of people is a source of stress for a lot of folks. How can you do it? How do you do that? And I basically say, well, number one, I'm an extrovert. So so naturally, I think everybody wants to know what I have to say, which is of course wrong. It's wrong. But the other part is that in the back of my mind, I do think, look, even if I make a complete fool of myself here, may that be of benefit to others. So being able to implant an intention, may I benefit everyone I encounter, may I benefit beings who are suffering, may I be able to lift their spirits, may I, just seeing me, may it connect them to the invisible that is within me. The invisible being my commitment to the Dharma, the invisible being my commitment to my guru and his teachings, the invisible being bodhicitta, bodhi means awakening, citta means mind, and so on. Because I feel that this implanting of an intention is really powerful thing. Because if we can notice a thought in meditation, let go of a thought in meditation, and then return our attention to the breath for a fresh start in meditation, that process, noticing, letting go, and returning, is what allows us to do all of these things. It allows us to notice we're thinking. It allows us to make a commitment to work with what we're thinking. And it allows us to consciously implant an intention in the mind. May everything I do today benefit beings in some way. And even if we have to refresh this on a regular basis throughout the day, this is where that comes in. Like many of you, I have a smartphone. I have it turned to do not disturb at the moment. But what will happen is that a couple of times a day, this phone will chime, or actually, and then of course the chime is echoed on my smartwatch. And it basically asks like, where's your mind? How you doing? And I have the opportunity to refresh my intention, the intention that I'm implanting. And this may sound super corny, but it actually works. And one of the things I'll share with you, because what I'm doing as I'm giving the program this morning is I'm making a list of things that I'm going to send to all of you when we're done. I'm going to send you a diagram of the 4 stages of shamatha so that you know how shamatha progresses. I'm going to send you a couple of aspiration prayers that you can make on a regular basis that will help you hold on to the thought of Dharma throughout the day. And these are the kinds of things that help me in establishing my Dharma practice off the cushion. Does anybody have questions about this or other challenges they have? And yes, feel free to unmute yourself, because since I'm in spotlight mode, I cannot see who's raised their hand. My apologies. So if you've feel free to unmute.
Lama Kathy, Therona is going to ask a question. She's just working on unmuting. I think she's got her hand raised. Oh, we can't hear you, Therona. Oh, there we go.
What arose in my mind when you offered and shared this mindfulness and for the aspiration. One of my obstacles that a Sangha friend had pointed out to me years ago is pride. And so how would your thoughts be on working with that pridefulness? Oh, I'm, offering this great aspiration, to benefit beings or people I come into contact with.
Got it. Boy, I really appreciate this because I think that being able to work with what's going on in your mind throughout the day, I think that's a powerful thing. And let me say something about that. First, we start with taming the mind, right? We're taming the mind through meditation. But then the next phase is training the mind. And so when we train the mind, the term for this in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition is called lojong. Lo means mind, and jong means training. And so in lojong, we train our mind in mainly training in love and compassion. But it can also be a training of which is called a relative bodhicitta. Bodhi means awakening and citta means mind. But can also be training in wisdom and an understanding of emptiness. That's ultimate bodhicitta. I will get your question thrown, I promise. Okay, so then in that way, when we have a negative thought arise for us in our everyday experience, when we are not meditating, okay? When we are not meditating, if we have thoughts, one of the ways to deal with them, I'm going to move to another whiteboard, is to follow something called the mind training slogan. These are mind training slogans are short sayings that help us. So when you're feeling pride, they actually give you a formula. So the formula goes like this: may my mental affliction contain the mental affliction of all beings. That's a real bodhisattva statement, isn't it? That's a bodhisattva. May my pride contain the pride of all sentient beings, because the first thing to do is to recognize that the pride may be good because it is boosting your self-esteem, but by the same token, it could be causing problems between you and the other people in your life. And it could be actually putting distance between you and the people in your life who perceive you to be prideful. So if you can work with the feeling in the moment that you're having it, that's important. So this consists of several statements. May my negative emotion contain the negative emotion of all beings. And then, so the next statement is, by my working through this moment of whatever your negative mental affliction is, may I and all beings be free of it. And may we all become Buddhas, which is the complete freedom from whatever that mental affliction is. Yep. So this type of slogan would help you, this type of technique would help you with emotions in the moment. But of course, the key piece is that you have to remember to do it. And you may say, well, how do I remember to do it? How do I remember to do it? I have an answer for that. Recite it every day out loud to yourself. And I'll bet you in 6 months, you'll have it memorized. Right? And then you'll be able to use it. So that's kind of my thinking about this, is that you will be able to use this technique over time. You may not be able to use it right away because you haven't got it memorized yet. But what you will do is, even if all you can remember of it is, oh, I'm having a mental affliction, I need to work with this, you know, even if that's all you have, then, and that's as far as you get. Fantastic. Fantastic. It's a start. Does that help, Dorona?
You know, that's true for all the different kinds of emotions too, not just pride,
Oh.
fear, anger, etc. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for that. And, you know, I'll tell you what, half the battle is knowing we've got it. You know, I know my 12 friends in 12-step, like they have their own sets of slogans, you know. They have their own sets of slogans. And one of them is, if you spot it, you got it. In other words, if you see the pride in other people and it aggravates you, it's because you've got it too. You might be a secret, keeping that as a secret from yourself, but you can't do that forever. So I hope that's helpful. And then someone asked what I meant on the whiteboard when I said, may my emotion contain the emotion. Contain is like, yeah, you're right. It's a shorthand and it can be a little bit confusing. When I say the word contain, it really means, it's like basically what it allows you to do is it allows you to expand your thoughts outward to include other beings and to accept the fact that you may not be the only prideful person on the planet at this moment. There might be others who are experiencing what you're experiencing right now. And so in a way, what you're saying is, when you're saying, may my emotion contain the negative emotions of all beings, you're saying, may I, you know, it's saying, it's like your pride becomes like a little vacuum cleaner that contains and sucks up all of the negative mental afflictions in the universe, and they are now contained in your pride that you're experiencing right now. And by the power of my working with this, may I and all beings be free. And so that's what the word contain means. You can actually, it's like, may my emotions stand in for, and by my doing this, may all of them be free of this emotion, by me taking it on for them. You can say, may my pride take on the pride of all sentient beings. And by my doing this, may we all be free. So the idea is that by my doing this technique of working with my anger or my pride in this way, by my doing this technique, may I and all beings progress in our practice so that we can work with these things bigger and better and more. And so making that aspiration is the beginning of it for us. And I know that it's kind of, what's the word? It's a little bit dull to think of like, oh, but I learned this already. Yeah, but if we are not able to apply it every day, learning it will not have given us the most benefit. It won't have benefited us to the greatest extent it could have. And so knowing it is only one thing, and knowing it and then being able to apply it is really the key piece. And thank you, Nancy GC, who said that you have the man and his elephant. I also have that diagram, and I was going to share it if we had time, but I also want to see if there are other questions first. Nancy, I'm actually thinking of doing nothing but shamatha retreat later, possibly near the end of February. where I do the whole thing, where I go through the entire diagram, talk about the 5 faults and the 8 remedies and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but we may not have time to get through that today, but I really appreciate you having it to share. Anybody else have questions they'd like to ask in this last couple of minutes here? And if you, I'm going to actually, here we go. See if there's anybody else. Looks like we're good. Okay. So it's my hope that by sharing this information with you, that this is going to be helpful. This is going to be helpful for you as you seek to practice your Dharma every day, because this capacity to set a thread of mindfulness, put that thread in your day, in your mind, in your life, is going to have really great benefits for you, because it's where you will, your wish to change things will actually take hold. Because I guess you could call it the secret to deepening your Dharma practice is really to erase the imaginary line between your practice on the one hand and your everyday life on the other hand. So many of us imagine that our practice life is over here and our daily life is over here, and that somehow never the twain shall meet. Somehow never will they ever come together. And that in fact, we might even think that one stands in opposition to the other. My daily life is interfering with my practice, or my practice is interfering with my ability to be a good mom or dad, or whatever. And so we may see these two things as being opposition to each other, but that's not the case. They can actually help each other. Our practice can help our daily life, and our daily life can help our practice, because our daily life, our practice brings us stability. Our practice life brings us stability on the cushion, and our daily life challenges us to go deeper and to do more. Because on the quiet spot of our meditation seat, even if we have some obstacles to our practice while we're sitting, like maybe we have pain, or maybe we experience negative memories or forget the technique or whatever, even though we have challenges on our seat, they're more under control. They're more manageable in the controlled atmosphere of our meditation seat. But in daily life, stuff is coming at us right and left, and things are coming and they're more chaotic. So our practice allows us to get established in mindfulness. And then our daily life challenges us to do more. And there are all kinds of ways that you can bring your mindfulness into daily situations, not just being aware of your own mental afflictions and using the slogans. That's just one way to practice mindfulness in everyday life. Noticing how you're feeling, using your own emotions to bring about a sense of compassion for yourself and others, and to deepen your commitment to the Bodhisattva path. You can do that with your mindfulness, but you also can use your mindfulness to do such things as make mental offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. I know that many of you will, I'm kind of a shrine geek, so you can kind of see that I'm a bit of a geek. I have a little bit of everything. I have a couple here, sets of offerings here. I have up on my second shelf, I have the fancy Dharma offerings and so forth. And you can't see my top shelf, but I have all my Buddhas and Bodhisattvas up there. And that because people kept giving me white Tara images, I have a whole shrine just for Tara. And so I try to make offerings every day on my shrine. But my teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, said that actually you can make offerings every day, all the time, if you use your mindfulness. And he said that to put the whiteboard up here for a moment. Yes, I did take a picture of that. So we're going to go ahead and erase that and go to connecting to the Buddhas. To our refuge vow and the enlightened ones through recollection. Khenpo Rinpoche, when he gave the refuge vow, he used to say that you can renew your refuge vow morning and evening, and that's a really good idea. You go to your shrine and you can bow 3 times to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and retake your vow of taking refuge. But you can also connect to your refuge and the enlightened ones through recollecting them. And one of the ways to do this is making offerings of whatever you experience. So, for example, someone has given you your meal, or someone has given you a gift, or perhaps a package has arrived in the mail. This may have happened to you in the last year or two. Or buy something new. What you can do when you have these experiences is that you can mentally offer them. And I just thought of something else. So you can, if you see something beautiful, and I have to tell you, when I woke up this morning and I looked out my window and I saw that I was going to have a turquoise sky today. When I look out this window, I see an oak tree that's in my front yard. And seeing the sort of gray and partially silver bark of that tree against the turquoise sky is gorgeous. It reminds me of all of those beautiful Southwestern US designs that utilize the color silver and the turquoise stones. Well, when I saw that today, I said, fantastic. I get to tell people to look out their window and see if they have a turquoise sky. If you don't, that's okay, because you can offer whatever you've got. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche was on a walk with us one day at one of the beautiful metro parks in Columbus, Ohio, the Blendon Woods Metro Park. If you've ever been there, you know how beautiful the trails are. Trees everywhere, ponds, wildlife. It's a really beautiful place. As he was walking, he said, in Tibet, we didn't have very much money. We couldn't make grand offerings. We couldn't do that. We were nomads. We had tents and we had small shrines in our tents, but we didn't have a way to make elaborate offerings. But by being aware of our surroundings, when we saw something that struck us as beautiful, we could mentally offer it to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for the benefit of all suffering beings. And you can actually do this. You can say, I offer this beauty of these trees and sky to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for the benefit of suffering beings. And when someone puts a meal in front of you, you don't have to go all Christian saying grace type of thing with your hands in prayer. You can merely just touch the sides of your plate and mentally offer your food to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. If you get a gift, you can touch both sides of the gift and imagine that you're offering them to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. If you open a package in the mail and it's like, surprise, you ordered something and forgot, then you can offer, even if you haven't forgotten, you can offer this new thing you've received to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And Khenpo Rinpoche said, how you do this is this new thing that you have received. He said, you mentally offer it to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. He says, and then you imagine that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas give it back to you for your use. And that way you have both made the offering and received it back. And in that way, you can, with confidence and appreciation and gratitude, use the new things that you've received. And what this exercise does is it places you in the presence of the enlightened ones. You're now in the presence of the enlightened ones, and you've made an offering to them. And you've, in a way, renewed your commitment to them as your sources of refuge by making an offering to them, the rare and supreme ones, and having them give it back to you. And since this came straight from Khenpo Rinpoche, I just think it's an incredibly powerful practice for allowing our minds to be focused on objects of virtue. Anybody have any questions about this? Questions, curiosities? Well, then, hearing none, then we'll close this portion of our program with a short meditation. Okay. So placing our body in the posture of meditation, thinking about the seat, the legs, the back, the shoulders, hands and arms, the chin, the gaze, the tip of the tongue. Thinking about this, we place our body in the posture of meditation. We create the mental intention that we will do this session of meditation for the benefit of sentient beings. If you are Buddhist, you can mentally take refuge in the Buddha and Bodhisattvas before your meditation also. So we're going to do about 5 minutes of sitting. And then at the conclusion of that, we'll dedicate the merit for our morning and then a break for lunch. That's a very short bit of meditation. His Eminence, Tai Sita Rinpoche, said, when your period of meditation is over, another good way to build that bridge between your meditation seat and your everyday life. He said, when you hear the bell, he said, don't impulsively jump up from your seat to get on to whatever you were going to do. He said, just take a moment to dedicate your merit. And then after you've dedicated your merit, saying, may the merit of this practice be of benefit to sentient beings. That's what that means. He said, then just sit and do nothing for just a moment. He says, and then you can get up. Again, what that does is that implants that idea of mindfulness into what's going to happen next. So again, it's like it's asking us to go against our sometimes impulsive nature, to think of the cushion over here and daily life over here, and that as soon as we're done with the cushion, we leap into daily life like it's somehow better. It's like recess. I mean, I don't know. But what we need to do is we need to think more of that bridge, what that bridge looks like for us between practice and everyday life. So this afternoon, when we reconvene, we're going to pick up the thread of talking about mindfulness, and then talking about a little bit more about mind training, and then a little bit about mantra practice and how mantra practice can help us build that bridge. And also how finding and working with a teacher will help our Dharma practice, because the topic is deepening the Dharma practice. So mindfulness is one route. Mind training is another route. Mantra practice is yet another route. And still another route is this idea of working with a teacher and having the teacher help you to deepen your practice. Because we're going to talk about we've talked a little bit about how we progress in mindfulness, but now we're going to talk more about the path in general, about how our particular lineage of Buddhism trains its students, and what's next, and how we can deepen our study of the Dharma, because I have a big stack of books to talk about. So we have a lot to do. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for being here, and to dedicate our merit for the morning. And so we can get on to lunch, because that's the next part. And I want to respect your time. So we'll gather together mentally all of the goodness that we've accumulated today, talking about and sharing about the Dharma, and we dedicate it to all suffering beings for the benefit of all. I'll recite the short prayer in English. Through this merit, may all achieve the omniscience of Buddhahood. May it defeat our common enemy, wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara. May we free all beings. May we free all beings. May we free all beings. Thanks, everyone. And thanks again to Tanya, our host with the most. And we'll be seeing you back here at 1 o'clock Eastern time. So at the top of the next hour. Okay, take care, everyone. It's really great to see you.
Should I go ahead and end the session, Lama Kathy, and then we'll just start a new one?
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Is that what we should do? Okay. All right. Sounds good.